All right, welcome to another episode of the Fair Chase podcast. We're wrapping up our story series. I've been saying that for a couple weeks, but we keep having guys and gals with good stories, so we're gonna keep running with it. But we've got some interesting ideas, Jared and I, for the future for some of the things we'll be talking about this summer. So stay tuned. But today we have Todd. Todd, thanks for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we've been in touch on and off over the last almost year.
Yeah.
I had reached out to you because I'd seen you you were doing that Hall Road hunt. You did pretty well on it a couple years ago.
The first year I killed a nice bull. Yeah. The second year I didn't, but that's what we'll talk about later
Okay,
today.
excellent. All right, good.
Yeah.
All right, Todd, tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So career-wise, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. So that's what I've done for my entire adult life. And so I have a gym here in Northern Virginia. I'm from Pennsylvania. I grew up hunting in Pennsylvania, and that's kind of like, it's so funny because, I've been out west a handful of times, quite a few times, and everywhere you go, you run into guys from Pennsylvania that hunt. They're everywhere. My buddies tell this story about they went to Colorado one year, and every every guy that was hunting this one drainage, they were all from Pennsylvania, and like they were all from like central Pennsylvania where I'm from. So it's pretty funny. We get around.
You guys, I will see you were Michigan or Pennsylvania guys.
Yeah.
And we're from Michigan, so that's probably why we see a lot of Michigan guys. But like you PA guys are everywhere.
Oh yeah, we're like the plague sometimes.
That's right.
And the Orange Army and that we talk about in during deer season, we just spread out all over the country too. So, but yeah, I grew up hunting deer and mostly deer and small game, and then got into strength and conditioning, and I've been doing that as a career. And I moonlight as a photographer and a writer, and so I really really enjoyed that aspect of my career, and it's led me into I do work with a tier 1 group of folks that do they go after bump in the night type stuff, and then I do some writing for Free Range American and places like that, and then I run Human Predator Pack Mule, which is a training. We do training for hunters. We train hunters to go on adventure hunts, to be ready for the backcountry. And kind of our goal is to look at things from the long term, right? It's like, of course, we want to be ready for this hunting season, but let's also think about longevity. And we all want to be able to do this for as long as we possibly can. So our thing is, if you train smarter, you can hunt longer. And so that's our main focus.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Fair Chase podcast. We're going to take a few seconds here to thank a few sponsors that helped make this show possible.
We are big fans of having glass with you when you're in the woods. So whether we're turkey hunting, bear hunting, deer hunting, whatever we're doing, we're bringing some sort of glass. Actually, one of the new fun pieces of glass that we've added to our collection were the UHD 18 by 56s.
Big boys.
I like them because then you don't need to bring a full spotter, and you can still do pretty well.
Yeah.
I like the 2 eyes. So we love Vortex. We use a lot of their optics on our rifles, on our chest when we're out.
Rangefinders, they got
rangefinders, amazing. So we'll love them. Go check them out. And actually, if you're going to buy some, check out Midway USA and use the promo code TFC10 for 10% off your order. I promise you won't be disappointed. Go check them out, Vortex Optics.
HuntWise is an awesome app. There's a lot of them out there. This one's definitely our favorite. They're local here in Grand Rapids, have their headquarters here. They have an awesome HuntCast 2.0 that's going to give you weather prediction, wind prediction, anything based off the pin and property that you're hunting to give you the best day to get out there and hunt. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Go get this app, huntwise.com.
It's no secret we've been shooting method arrows for a long time. Well, it might be because they used to be called vector arrows. Their method arrows now are super tough, great shooting arrows, great weight. And what's really cool about them is you enter your bow specs in, weight, draw length, all that stuff, and they will send
no more charts.
No more.
Let them deal with it.
The smart dudes who we've had on our show in the past figure it out for you, send you ready to go arrows,
ready to shoot.
Go check them out. Method Archery. We've shot a lot of bows, but for the past 5 or so years, we've been shooting prime bows. Love the way they shoot, super stable. And what we're really excited about, great warranty. And this year they rolled out the RevX series, which is pretty sweet. We've been talking about the different RevXs we're going to be shooting.
And you're going in the 6Y?
I'm deciding to shoot the 36, which is a
The
longer
only reason
axis,
he's choosing the 36
is because I figure the bigger the bow, the
Don't
bigger the
say it.
buck. So we're going to test that out. Follow us this year to see if that actually happens. But that's what I'm shooting. You're shooting the Rev X 4.
Yep.
So anyways, we love Prime. Michigan company. Great guys. Go check them out. G5prime.com. We put a lot of miles on whether we're hunting,
boots.
Yeah, on our boots. Whether it's Alaska out west, even here in Michigan.
Let's just say the muck boots were left in the truck.
Yes. So we need something that's comfortable, that'll keep us dry, that's durable, and actually we like a little stiffer soled when we're hunting from our platform or when we're saddle hunting. So we wear Lathrop & Son boots. I've been wearing the Mountain Hunter Encompass, and yours is the
Mountain Hunter Elite.
Great boots. Great guys from down in Illinois, the Lathrop brothers. Had them on an episode in the past. Go check it out. Go check out their boots, Lathrop & Sons.
If you didn't already know that James and I are saddle hunters, then you do now. And if you don't like it, then go listen to somebody else because we're going to talk about saddles. We wear Trophy Line tree saddles because we think they're awesome. And they come out with some awesome new products all the time. They just came out with a new Venatic saddle that is seriously the best saddle I've ever sat in. And I've sat in quite a bit of them. They also have the new Onyx platform out.
I spent some time on it this fall.
I've spent some time on it. It's pretty sweet. And they're going to continue to come out with sweet products just like those two. So stay tuned to them. They've got social media, trophyline.com. And save yourself 10%. TFC 10.
It's no use having an awesome bow if you don't have great accessories. So sights, stabilizers, things like that. And so that's why we chose to work with Redline Bow Accessories. And so those guys are coming out with amazing new things, whether it be new stabilizers or sights like this. If you're watching on our YouTube or video podcast, this new torch sight. So we're huge fans of this sight. Double pin. You know what? Go check out our past episode with them or check out their website. There's a ton to like about this site. Their stabilizers are great, and actually some of their quivers are incredible.
Yes.
So go check them out. Listen to the last episode we did with them. Oh, and save yourself 10% with the code TFC10.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know what age actually this happened to me. You can see when my beard's longer, you'll see a lot more gray.
Sure.
But at some point, I started thinking about longevity as opposed to just being able to go out and hunt. It's like, well, I want to be able to do this when I'm 60. It's like, 70. And it's not something you think about until like one day. I don't know what age that is, but it's like how I'm thinking about that.
Oh, dude, I don't think it hits you. Honestly, I don't think it hits you until your 30s. You know what I mean? Like you have this vague idea that you get older and stuff when you're younger, but it doesn't feel like a reality. You know what I mean? You still feel invincible. And then you hit your 30s and you're like, oh no, it's going to happen. And if I want to be able to keep doing these things I got to do something about it, So
it's a couple injuries, I think, too. Like mine was like some kind of knee or ankle or hip or whatever guys have happened to them. I was having trouble with my feet for the longest time.
Oh, really?
Like plantar fasciitis type stuff. And I don't know if this is you, and you might be able to tell me, but I'm convinced that it went away the moment I started untucking the sheets at the bottom of the bed, because my wife puts them real tucked in. And so I feel like I would sleep with my toes pointed straight out. And the moment I flipped it up, like I feel like it just went away.
It could be. I mean, you think about it, there's people that will actually, I forget what the thing is called, but there's this thing that's like a sock, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will sleep with their feet and ankles in plantar flexion, which is what you're talking about. And think about it almost like if you were to at least even contract your bicep lightly for 8 hours, you're going to wake up and it's going to be tight and it's not going to feel good. So, I mean, that totally makes sense. So I forget what the device is called, but essentially you wear it while you sleep. And there's like a strap that comes off your toes and then attaches to the front of your shin to pull your foot into dorsiflexion so that those tissues stay long and don't like stay contracted while you sleep. So you could be onto something there.
I'm convinced. Well, because I was trying everything, I don't know if you've seen these. There's like these socks that separate your toes.
Yeah.
I tried those. Actually, I still once in a while throw those on. They hurt after a while. Like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and my feet are like, because I'll fall asleep obviously with them on. So I tried everything, but my wife is skeptical. I think it's because she hates that I get in bed and just like flipping sheets around,
I don't want to start any kind of a marital dispute, but
Too late.
I think you're onto something, man. Yeah. And another thing that we combat all the time is folks want to wear like way too stiff of boots, and like you don't need them. And the best thing that you can do is wear less stiff boots, or at least in your shoes, like you want to make your feet as strong as possible. And like, I get it if you're like on a sheep hunt or something like that, and you're almost like creating a stair that gets you up the mountain. Yeah. But in most instances, like the stiff boots are not doing you any favors.
See, that's good to know too, because I was bear hunting last year, and I brought some of these ultras. They're ultra boots, like very flexible, wide.
You're talking about. Yep.
And one of my buddies, Joe, was like, "Oh, those you need stiff boots." And now he wasn't wrong, because like in 3 days I shredded them. Like I literally threw them in a motel trash can because they were just shredded. But I feel like there is something to not always having this super flexible or super stiff sole.
Durability is one thing of like the actual construction of the shoe, but last year in Alaska, I was there for 3 weeks. I hunted moose, I hunted caribou. I went up the mountain after black bears, and I did it all in Vivo barefoot hiking shoes.
Oh, you really?
Yeah.
And you were fine. Your feet didn't fall off?
Fine.
Did you haul anything out?
No, there wasn't, but I mean, I've done a lot of rucking with that on with I don't know, 50 pounds on my back and no issues at all. So I think if you train your feet to be strong enough, then you don't really need them. But I like them, especially if it's not too cold out, or even if it's getting a little cold. I like shoes and boots with a wide toe box for a couple of reasons. Like, first, you get to use your whole foot, and it makes your foot stronger. And second of all, it keeps your feet warmer. I think constricting your toes in a closed toe box, it doesn't allow the same amount of air to get heated up inside of your shoe. And I think it actually makes your feet cooler. And I realized it turkey hunting because I was like, I had Merrell ultralights on.
Yeah.
And I love those shoes for most applications, but my feet got so cold. And then the next day I wore my Vivos and my feet stayed warm. And same socks, same everything. And another thing I like about like those kind of shoes that are lighter is they're quieter. So especially early season or sometime when you don't really need to worry about keeping your feet super warm, something that allows you to move through the woods or wherever you are more quietly, I think is incredibly advantageous. So I don't like the big, heavy, thick boots if you don't need them.
I have, speaking of Vivo, they have those like Croc looking shoes. You know what I'm talking about? They're basically like Vivo Crocs. And I got the hardest time because I would early season hunt with those on. They're like bright red. But it's like walking around in bare feet.
Yeah.
And you could go in the water. I would just wear nothing underneath them, just bare feet in those like Croc like shoes. And it worked pretty well. But it's definitely not like the traditional way of, doing it.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't.
What they called? I'm trying to think of what their name was. Anyways, so that's interesting to know. And like, as we're kind of in the off season, a lot of the training stuff is top of mind. Guys getting ready for whatever fall, late summer hunt they have. So I'm sure you've been busy with that sort of stuff lately.
Yeah. We got folks getting ready for elk hunts. I got a guy, he's in New Zealand, that just killed a tar and a chamois, and then he's coming back. And he has 6 weeks, and then he's going to the Northwest Territories for a Dall sheep hunt. It's just and he killed an aoudad in Texas last year, I think. And so he's just having a heck of a.
Must be nice. That's a sweet run.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good. And then, so we've been really getting into upland too, because upland and guys and gals going out west to get after the chuckers and the mountain quail, like, you got to be in shape if you want to do that stuff, man. So we cover
a lot of ground,
dude. Yeah. My assistant coach, Jordan, he's really big into upland and everything like that. So we've been getting into that to help folks a lot. And it's just, you want to walk all day in the mountains, man, you got to be ready for it.
See, I feel like the other one that people don't realize, well, maybe not everybody does this way, but like turkey hunting.
Yeah.
I checked back on my average, because we do a lot of it's all public land where we're going after them, and you're just like, you obviously try to get them off the roost in the morning, but if you don't, you're just walking around. So I was averaging 7 miles turkey hunting every single day. That was my average. which is insane. Not deer hunting isn't like that, you know?
Yeah. See, that's the way that I've learned to hunt turkey. So I didn't start hunting turkey till as an adult. And
Me too.
My buddy Brett, he got me into it, and he's a big run and gunner. Like we move, we try to get on birds. If we don't kill them off the roost, we don't use decoys. We try to use terrain and call and all that kind of stuff. So I dig it, man. I love it. The run and gun and moving around all day trying to get birds, man.
It's so fun. It's like, yeah, you just almost can't stop. Like as the day goes on, I'm like, I have to poop. I'm hungry, but I just want to keep going, you know?
Yeah.
I'll be fine. So that's cool. So, you know, as we had talked about ahead of time, this is a hunting story series. So, you know, what we're doing is we're talking about one of the things that we like most about hunting, which is the stories that come out of it. Things that I love to tell, I love to listen to. And so, you know, you've gone and hunted all over the place. You've trained people that have done a lot of cool things. When you think of, you know, a great hunting story that at least you've been a part of, what comes to mind?
Well, I think, you know, I remember when I was talking with one of my editors at Free Range American, Mike Shea, who's a good dude. We were talking about maybe doing this one article, and he said, he's like, all I ask is like, it's not a, hey, we went there and then we killed the thing type of story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when I think about it, it's just like any other good story. There comes to this pivotal point where you make a decision, or you went through something harrowing to get to where you are, or whatever it might be. And so I think the makeup is like, we all want to still see that kind of like 5-act kind of setup of like, you know, I thought this, but this was reality. Do I want to change? Do I want to do what happened, you know? And so I think it's just the makeup of a good story that we want to see, you know? And so, man, I thought a lot about which one I would talk about. Cause there's like, I was like, man, should I tell them about antelope in Wyoming in 2019? Should we talk about elk from 2021? And I just decided that I think the best story to tell is the 2021 haul road trip that I took. And so I went up with Steve Opat, who's a guy that I went up with to Alaska a handful of times, I think 4 times. He lives up there. And then that year, this guy, who I've since become pretty good friends with, Elias Carlson, came along. And Elias and Steve wrote like a 2-part article for Modern Huntsman about the trip. And so Elias is this world-class photographer and designer. And so we have him along on the trip. And Elias had never been on a big game hunt before in his life. So his first experience is to go to Alaska, and he'd always dreamed of going to Alaska. And so we have this, you know, you've gone up the haul road, this epic journey of like a 500-mile drive up well, you came from Anchorage, so you did like 1,000-mile drive.
It took forever to get there.
Yeah, you did like 1,000-mile drive. And so we have this whole road trip set up of going, you know. And so we set off, and at one point, this will be pivotal. We stopped and got water at a stream. And and I have a picture of it, and I think this is the moment. But anyway, so we start getting above, like up above the Brooks Range.
Yep.
And we start seeing caribou everywhere, you know, and
you're over the Adigan Pass.
Over Adigan Pass. There's caribou everywhere. And we have this spot, we're rifle hunting, and we have this spot where it's like just inside the rifle corridor. I don't really disclose how we got there, because it's just one of those things that in fairness to the other people that were involved, I don't really tell how we got there. And it's this instance where we're right on the border of the rifle corridor. So in front of us, we can't shoot, but behind us, we can.
Yeah.
And so for 4 or 5 days, we're just seeing caribou roll through, right? So groups of them, 20, 30, some just cows and calves. But then there's this old, big gray bull, just the grayest caribou I've ever seen in my life. Like I started calling him the ghost. Cool. And I just fell in love with this caribou. And I would sit there and watch him most of the day and just hope that, like, is he going to close the gap? And like, you know, you're looking through a spotting scope and you like conceptualize intellectually that he's far away.
Yeah.
But in your mind and in your soul, you're like, I can get there.
He's
Like
not that far.
He's
Yeah.
gonna come. But really he's far. He's like a mile, you know? And so I just sat and watched him for days. But our priority was we got to get Elias a Caribou, you know?
Right.
And so we're sitting there, we're watching Caribou go across. We've had some good weather days, then we have a bad weather day. And then before I went, had been dealing with a back injury. I don't know what happened, but I had this lower back freak out. And it got to the point where I was terrified. Like I was scared because I couldn't stand up. Like I couldn't lay down. I was like locked in place, and I've never experienced anything like that in my life. Luckily, I have friends that are in the medical field, and I got some muscle relaxers that got me through it. And so I'm watching this bull. We know we got to get Elias a bull. I feel like I can't move right now. And all of the caribou seem to stay out in this place that we called the hayfield, because it was just like this big flat swamp that just looked like it was hay growing up, you know? And so it's this like combination of just like longing and waiting and like, will they come over here?
Yeah.
Do we need to go do something else? Like,
are you at your camp this whole time?
The camp. We hunted from the camp. Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's one of the brilliant things and I think smartest things that you can do in Alaska when you're hunting caribou or you're hunting moose is like camp where you're going to hunt, you know?
Yeah.
So you can see. And so we're just watching all this, and finally these caribou cross the river. And we're like, oh, here's our chance. And so we're set up and we're waiting, and they come through, and it's just like, it doesn't work out. There's not the bull to kill. And what I loved about Elias is we had talked leading up to the hunt all summer, like about knowing when to shoot, which one's it going to be, you know, which one's it going to be. And so they crossed through, and it didn't work out. And then, so we go on kind of like this big nature hike. We go up this one drainage the whole way back. And you know how the creeks that come down into the rivers there. And it's just like, everything seems flat, but there's these creeks that flow down, and that's where like the actual topography is. And so we sneak up this drainage, and there's just this lone young bull just at the top of the drainage, maybe, I don't know, 120 yards out. And he sees us, and Elias is looking through the scope, right? They're looking at him, and we're like, he's like, I don't know. I think he looks pretty young. I don't know if we want to do this. Yeah. And I was like, well, why don't we get set up? Why don't we get set up? Why don't we practice? Why don't we see, at least be ready for when a bull comes. Yeah. And so we get set up, and from what I remember, he practices, he dry fires a few times, he gets it up, he knows what it feels like to be in that situation, and like, okay, here are my steps, here what I'm going to walk through to pull the trigger. And he kept looking, he's like, it's not him, I don't want to do it. And we're like, okay. And so Steve was like, I got to do something. And so Steve had like a 45-70 lever gun. Yeah. And he just goes sprinting up the drainage, and the bull's up on the top, so he's kind of hidden. Sure. And so he just goes sprinting up there, and he pops up, and there's this image of it. God, I think it's in Modern Huntsman, of Steve standing there with his 45-70 and this bull looking at him, and Steve holding the gun. And I didn't know what he was going to do at that point. Yeah. I was like, I think Steve he wants to kill a bull with his lever gun because he's never done it. Yeah. And so cool. I thought that's what he was going to do. And he just goes up, and we're probably 100 yards away. And I swear to God, I heard it go click. And he just went up and went bang. He just wanted to see that he could do it, you know? Yeah. And so he runs the whole way up on this young bull, doesn't kill him. And we come back, and we kind of regroup, and we kind of walk the river and glass and we look at bear excavations. We kind of take it all in. We go back that night, and we do some fishing, and we caught a bunch of grayling, and we made them for our dinner. And that next day, we kind of wander, and we run into a group of ptarmigan. And so the year before, we had seen ptarmigan everywhere. Yeah. And we were like, man, that would have been a really good food source had we had something to take care of it. And so I brought a 22 pistol along with me this year.
I saw that picture, the orange one, right?
Yeah, I got a Mark V, a Ruger Mark V. And so I wiped out half of a covey of ptarmigan with a 22 pistol. And we got him back, and And we were like, man, we should probably go find the rest of them. We're like, I killed enough for us to have a good dinner.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know what? We should probably go kill the rest of them. Why didn't we just kill them? You know?
Mm.
And so we went, because the ptarmigan limit's like 50 a day.
Oh yeah, tons.
And so we went back looking for them. We never found them. So we come back and we're all in this mood where like, there's tension, you know? It's like, we've been here for weeks. Should we leave? Should we go to another spot? Should we do this? And then we wake up the next morning and there's a group of caribou back behind camp. And we were like, they were moving as it was oriented behind us from left to right at a good clip. And mind you, I'm still dealing with this back.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we have to go after them. And so I was like, I guess I got to deal with this. And so I grabbed my rifle. We were light. And so we dropped down in the river and like, I don't know, it was awesome because as I started going, as we started moving, something about moving fast and like using my hips, my back pain went away.
Loosened up or something.
We just were flying. Okay. And so we dropped down and we swing way out in front of these caribou and we set up once and then we realize, okay, we're not at the right angle. They're not going to cross close enough. And then we get set up again. And then this group of, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 cows and 3 bulls, you know, none of the bulls were old, but there were definitely, the one that Elias ended up killing was a shooter.
Yeah.
And so we get set up. Elias is set up. He's the first shooter, right? And so I'm ranging for him. Bull walks into 70 yards and Elias has his father-in-law's rifle. I think it was a Remington 700, this old rifle, and his father-in-law had recently died. And so it was meaningful that he took this rifle to Alaska and killed his first big game animal with his father-in-law's rifle, which was really, really cool. And so he shoots, he puts a great shot on this bull and it drops. And you know how caribou are. They're curious. There's just a loud noise. So they stood there. And there was this other bull. And I had been thinking that whole year, you know, the year before I killed a nice one, it's like, what do I want from this?
Right.
And I hate one of my flaws is like, I hate going home without meat.
Yeah.
And so
totally.
like sometimes I will make a decision just based on like, I want meat. I'm going to kill something. And so I get set up on this other bull, and it was about the same size and not nearly as big as the bull that I had killed the year before. And I was really going through the dilemma in my head. Like, I can't remember if it was Steve or Elias that was ranging for me, but they're like 70 yards. It walks away 100 yards. And I'm just looking at it 170. And eventually it got to 200, which is like well within my range with the rifle. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not going to kill him. And it was just one of those instances where it's like, you kind of learn about yourself, right? You learn a little bit about your restraint. What are you doing this for? And it was one of those things where it just didn't sit right. Like I didn't want to kill that bull. It just wasn't it. And it's like, I think in a lot of circumstances, you know, it's not cheap to go to Alaska. It's not, you spend a week just kind of getting your ass kicked and all the things that lead up to that. And you come to this moment where it's like, you can close it.
Yeah.
You can do what you came here to do. But I just think there's something to making sure that you're behind all of it when you squeeze that trigger, when you press the trigger down, you know, and I wasn't there. And to this day, I'm glad that I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I had that. You know what? We'll be telling a very similar story here fairly soon with a film we're coming out with about a bear hunt. That same type of thing happened where, you know, you have to not do something that you really are like back and forth on. And to your point, and I think you're right in it, I've never regretted it.
No,
I've never been like, oh, I should have shot that thing. It's always like, no, that was a good thing to do. You don't feel it, you know, it's not right is the best way I've been able to describe it. Just wasn't right. It wasn't the right thing, you know.
And it's a powerful experience in just a different way, you know, like it's one of those things where it shouldn't feel like, if it's going to feel wrong when you do it, I mean, of course, time kind of heals things. You maybe
Sure.
don't, but it's likely not going to feel good later.
Yeah.
And you're going to look back on that and there's going to be a tarnish on it, or it's just learning like you know more of why you're there, you know? And
I always think that with like guys who like poach deer or something. I'm always like, dude, that buck that you really wanted to shoot so bad that you do it illegally is hanging on your wall. And you can't tell me that it's not eating at your conscience a little bit.
oh, for sure. And the thing is, you can't unless you run with a group of criminals, like you can't tell the story.
No,
And that's
exactly.
and that's one of the reasons that we do this is because, man, we love the lore of it. We love telling the story. We love hearing other people's stories.
Yeah.
And if it feels gross, man, like you just can't tell the story.
I don't want that looking at me on the wall, you know. I don't
Yeah,
want
it's
to be
just-
reminded of that.
Exactly. It's a reminder of one of your character flaws, you know.
Yeah.
And not that we shouldn't be honest to ourselves about where we have flaws, but it's like, man, that's just a big sore spot in it. But
Yeah.
and so I've always been glad that I didn't pull the trigger. But you know, to end the trip, we we dropped stop. Steve was a medevac nurse, so he was stationed in Dead Horse there, and so Elias and I drove the haul road back ourselves, and the plan was to alternate. And so we get going, and he takes the first little bit, and then I jump in, and I'm going to drive us up through Alaskan Pass.
Mhm.
And so there's a snowstorm.
Of course, yeah.
And dude, like, I don't think I've ever white knuckled a steering wheel quite like I did that day. Like
Really?
it was gnarly. Like it wasn't a crazy amount of snow yet, but it was blowing hard. It was tough to see. And you know what Alaskan Pass is like.
It's dicey. It feels dicey up there.
It
was snowing so crazy when I was going through.
Yeah. And it's not crazy scary when it's not snowing, but it's like, it's a place where you got to pay attention when you're driving, you know? And so throw the snow on top of that. And we get to the other side of the pass and we come down and it's not snowing anymore. And so I get out. I'm like, dude, I need a minute. I just want to take a minute and get my head about. And so I open the door. And as soon as I open the door to the van, I get hit with a chill. And I'm like, oh no, I could not get warm.
Oh no.
Could not get warm. And then after that, I like started to get sick in my stomach. And like I started to feel like I need to throw up. I started to feel like I needed shit. And so like I'm just praying that we get to Cold Foot so we can sleep somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
And so this whole time I'm like, my stomach's getting me. I'm exhausted. I can't pay attention. We get to Cold Foot, we get a room. But dude, I'm like, it's coming out both ends, you know?
Yeah, this is gonna get ugly fast. A real mess.
Coming out both ends. So we made it back to Fairbanks and I felt so bad because the whole time, like Elias is driving this whole long ass trip and I'm just a zombie. I can't.
Of course.
We get to Fairbanks, things don't get any better. Like it's to the point where I'm just like all the time. I get Elias to the airport. The next day, I got to go run around town, take care of some errands and clean things up. But then I have to get on a flight to Chicago. And this whole time, I was like, you know what I'm going to do, man? I'm going to buy myself a first class ticket from Fairbanks to Chicago on the red eye so I can sleep.
Yeah.
Every 30 minutes, like throughout the night, I had to get up and go to the bathroom. From the whole, it's typically like a 7 to 9 hour flight from Fairbanks to Chicago, to the point where like the one flight attendant was like, hey man, are you okay? And I was like,
I wish.
I'm very much not okay.
Yeah,
but
this is not the way I wanted it to go.
But this is what I'm dealing with right now. And so I got back and I can't say giardiasis or giardia. I had giardia. I had a giardia infection from drinking
you did.
tainted water. And
so
it
took that long to kind of set in.
It takes like almost a week.
Really? I did not know. I thought you get giardia and it's like hours and you're done.
No, it takes a while to kick in. But when it gets you, it is not pleasant. So what I have, since I've gone into the backcountry, like when I went to Alaska last year and all these things, dude, there is either chlorine in my water or I am filtering the absolute bejesus out of it.
Yeah.
Because that shit sucks so bad.
Well, I got those, that SteriPen that I use.
Yeah.
But I'll just say, I do it like 2 or 3 times as much as you're supposed to, because there's something about that light that I'm just like,
I don't know.
I know it works, but it doesn't feel like it should work, you know?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I use one of the Catadine pump filters, or just like straight chlorine.
Yeah. Just have some chlorine in and just deal with it.
I think it's like 8 drops per quart or something like that. I don't remember exactly the ratio off the top of my head, but that'll save you a lot of trouble.
A lot of well, because it's either you get the the liquids, as you could maybe call it, or it's like sometimes the pain of it is just like filtering takes forever, and so
it does,
and they're just like pumping through trying to get a little bag. So I mean, yeah, I've not found like a water. I think my favorite still is probably the SteriPen, but I can't say that I found like a great thing that I love. Yeah,
I mean, one of those dropper bottles about that size of chlorine will get you through a few weeks without a problem, and you just drop it in, shake it up. And I think it takes like 10-15 minutes.
Aquamira. Potable aqua. I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, that's does it taste weird? I've not tried this yet.
It tastes like drinking tap water at home.
Okay. Yeah. There's plenty of chlorine in that water too.
There's plenty of chlorine in it. So yeah. So but I would that's like the good of realizing like, hey, I have a very good level of restraint when I'm hunting was tempered by the fact that I gave myself Giardia.
I will say, it does suck when those kind of things happen. Yeah. But also, it always does make a good story. And I always think back whenever I have like a disaster moment like that, it's always like, at least it's like enjoyable to tell in the future. You know what I mean?
It's funny now. It's funny
now.
Yeah. But I also felt bad because I was like the worst road trip partner in history because I was just dead. Like he's trying to talk to me. We're trying to have like this, a good conversation, and I can participate in about a quarter of it,
Right.
And you just feel like a bum.
Yeah, been there. Yeah, I've definitely been there. I was just makes me think I did a road trip with a buddy in college down to Florida. On the way, we stopped at a Waffle House and loaded up, and like it was my, he was driving and it was my turn, and I had the same situation. I'm like, I don't know what I ate at the Waffle House. He drove like 20 hours, and of course it was like same type of deal. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm in the back comatose. You're on your own,
dude. The Waffle House is always a dicey decision.
Yeah, it's never.
You might get some tainted food, or you might get yourself in handcuffs.
That's right.
A fist fight. So it's like it's not the place.
Generally doesn't end well.
Yeah, but when you're in college, you're like, oh man, Waffle House, that's gonna be like $5. Let's go.
That's right. It's all that's on basically free calories.
Yeah, exactly right, man. Exactly right. Yeah.
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. It's always good to talk the Haul Road. Like I've told the story on this podcast before, but it's like it's stuck with me now because of how my last trip went there, where I had some bow issues and missed the Caribou 4 times on my birthday. I set the record for most misses I've ever been on in a hunt. So I would like to go. I'm definitely going back. We're planning that, but it's good to always hear other guys doing it. You've gone now twice. You going again soon, or?
I'll go again for sure. There are some of my buddies that I want to take up and see it, because it's just, I think that the trip alone, the drive from Fairbanks up north, and just seeing how the topography changes and seeing all of the different you go through Coldfoot and it feels like the normal central Alaska, then you get up and you kind of feel like you're almost in like Wyoming or something, like a high plains type of deal. And then you get on the other side of Adigan Pass and you see the tundra, and you're like, it takes a while to settle into it, I think.
Because
you're like, this is just desolation. This is awful. And then after you sit there for a while and you can look closer and you really see it, and you're like, this place is pretty beautiful. Like, it doesn't seem like there's anything here. It doesn't seem like there's life, but then you really settle into it and you really start to pay attention, and it's just, you find beauty everywhere,
Oh, well, and I just kept thinking, like, how weird is it? This water has been in this puddle for like a long time. This is like an old place. It just feels old.
It is, man. It is. And it is, I don't know. I think it's just one of those places where you don't get it immediately, but if you sit there for a few days and you really look at it, you start to get it,
You seen any grizzly?
One.
Okay.
Just one. And Jesus, I've spent like 21 or 22 days up on the North Slope, and I've seen one.
Yeah, I didn't see any when I was there.
Do you find their excavations or anything?
I didn't. Although I wouldn't have known what I was looking at if I did find it.
Yeah, you can tell. You would know. You'd be like,
ripped up.
Yeah,
I didn't spend too much time. I was south, and there wasn't a lot of like I wasn't around rivers too much. A little bit.
Okay, yeah.
And, I know like a place. I had run into a guy who had seen 17 different grizzly bears when we were up there. He had just
really?
kind of run into them, and I'm like, well, I'll probably avoid that area.
Yeah. I mean the dense. I've never like been worried about it. I mean honestly, our camp probably should have been a little cleaner than it was.
Yeah.
But it was never a concern because their density is so low. But just the thing about those barren ground grizzlies is like they're hungry.
Yeah, they're coming to eat.
They're
Yeah.
hungry. So I would even if you're bow hunting, man, like no matter what I was doing, I had my Glock on me the whole time,
Yep.
even up there. So
I was supposed to. I kept forgetting it. I kept setting like leaving it, and I'd be like 2 hours gone, and I'd be like, oh, well, I better keep my head on a swivel,
Yeah.
because something
Well,
pops up. I'm not ready.
That's the one place that you can get away with it, kind of, because you can see so far, you
Yeah.
know. But it's like, man, I don't play with it. We saw wolf tracks up there, but we didn't see any wolves. But we almost hit a wolf in the van last year.
Did you really?
Down by the 40 Mile River. We almost hit
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
that's cool.
It was
That's really
cool. And it just like gave us this one moment where it just stood in the road and looked at us like after we drove past. And I was just like dumbfounded. I had my camera in my hand. I was like, then Steve asked me, well, did you get any pictures? I was like, no, I just looked at it.
Yeah, I definitely know how that goes.
Yeah. So, but that was cool.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. And actually, do you want to share where people can find more information about you, some of the
Oh, sure, man.
off-season training stuff you do and stuff like that?
Yeah. So Instagram, my personal is Todd_Bumgardner, and then Human Predator Pack Mule. That's all one. And then our website is humanpredatorpackmule.com. Feel free to DM me, check out the website, shoot us a message there.
The name sticks in my head very easily. Human Predator Pack Mule. It's very catchy for whatever reason.
Yeah, we can maybe some other time we can discuss how I came up with that.
Well, yeah, we'll talk after the podcast. I've got some ideas for that too. So
okay, cool.
Well, thank you for doing this. Everybody go check them out. Check us out next week. We've got some pretty cool stuff in store. So appreciate you all listening.
All right. Thanks, man.